Welcome to the Counselor Conference session focused on transition readiness. Our learning targets for this session are: what is transition readiness? How does a student become transition ready? What is the role of the counselor in ensuring students are transition ready? The name and need tool in the JCPS Data Management Center, and also the KDE calculation for transition readiness. My name is Dr. Joe Ellison, and I serve as the Assistant Superintendent of High Schools for JCPS. As we start this conversation, it's important to understand what transition readiness is. Transition readiness is an accountability measure that is used by the Kentucky Department of Education, and its purpose is to assess whether the student has attained the necessary knowledge, skills, and dispositions to successfully transition to the next level of his or her educational career. Currently, transition readiness is 20% of a high school's accountability score. It is also important to understand why transition readiness is important for our students. First and foremost, transition readiness is the most transportable and transferable assessment for our students. The value add of meeting an ACT benchmark, of earning dual credit, of earning an industry certification, of earning articulated credit by end of program assessment has real meaning for students and their futures. Transition readiness also propels our students toward post-secondary learning and earning like no other accomplishment outside of the actual high school diploma. Because again, transition readiness identifies necessary knowledge, skills, and dispositions that students have and indicate immediately to post-secondary institutions and also to employers those skills that students have. Transition readiness means more, in fact, to employers and post-secondary institutions than any other part of our state accountability system, because it's about what students have and what they can do. And then finally, if school and education is about helping students become contributing members of our society, the measures of transition readiness are the pinnacle credentials that help students achieve this very state.
Hi, counselors. My name is Kim Morales, and I am one of 2 executive administrators in the high school office. I serve and support the 15 Academy of Louisville schools and their principals. And today I'm here to remind us all about what it means to be transition ready. First, let's take a look at academic readiness. Students must meet one indicator from row A and one indicator from row B to be considered academically ready. You'll notice subjects, English, reading, and math, with multiple opportunities for students to hit benchmarks. Many JCPS students hit the ACT benchmark. Oftentimes, if students are not successful on the ACT, often due to test anxiety and needing more time to demonstrate their knowledge, they will meet benchmarks on the Coyote. We also have a growing number of students who are taking 6 hours of dual credit and earning a grade of C or higher, and this qualifies them to be transition ready as well. Now let's take a look at the career readiness benchmarks. Students must meet any one of the career requirements in this chart. First of all, students might pass an end of program assessment. Students could earn a valid industry certification for a career pathway in which they are enrolled. They could also earn 6 hours of CTE dual credit with a grade of C or higher, complete an exceptional work experience, or a track apprenticeship. So there are multiple ways for students to achieve these benchmarks. If they are an English language learner, they must also meet the criteria for English language proficiency. And there are some alternate assessments as well. Most students in JCPS are meeting career readiness through an end of program assessment or an industry cert. However, we are growing opportunities for dual credit in CTE, and students in those courses are doing well. However they achieve it, our goal is that 100% of JCPS seniors will be transition ready.
Hey counselors, it's me, Pam Royster. I'm the Director of Post-Secondary Planning in the Office of Transition Readiness in High Schools. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about your role when it comes to the name and need. You guys are so fortunate as a role group to be the brokers of hopes and dreams for our students. And so that means you need to know a lot of information about your students, and we have it unfortunately spread all over the place. You might have a LAC card, you have access to their ILP information, you have their academic planner and all their other student information in Infinite Campus. So what the purpose of that name and need is to put everything about a student's transition readiness plan in one place in one list for you and for the other people who are using this. And so this tool can really help you know what your kiddos' plans are for transition readiness specifically, which might even give you a hint on what their plan is for after high school, right? So this name and need, probably the most powerful thing it can do for you is be a mindful scheduler. This, in addition to a LAC card and other information that you have about students, helps make sure that you know which pathway kids are in. And along with the CPT or your career pathway templates, you will know what the next course in the sequence is. And it's making sure kids have those courses in their schedule and on their transcripts. It also can help pinpoint students that could use an intervention. And again, this could be something that's scheduled during the day or might be something that they can take advantage of after school through some other programming. But you can easily find the kiddos that are 2, maybe 3 points away from benchmark so that you can get them in the inappropriate English or math section that will give them an opportunity to bone up on their skills a little bit. Maybe you have the Accelerate to College program in your school, and that might be an option for students, or some other, connecting them with some other programming that you might have available that a community partner like Evolve 502 might have for us. And it's going to highlight students that might need a little extra support. And again, back to being that broker of hopes and dreams, you're also the broker of plans and connector of services. So the name and need can help identify and track what students are doing to accomplish their transition readiness goals. It's also a great tool for collaboration because there are other stakeholders in your building who are using this list. So that's an opportunity for you to sit down with your BAC or your academy coach or your CTE lead to ensure that students are accessing the correct assessments and that they've got what they need to be prepared for those assessments, whether it's an industry certification, group of industry certifications, or an end of program exam. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how you might be able to engage with the name and need. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Josh Lightle from Pleasure Ridge Park High School. I'm the Academy coach at PRP, and I am tasked today with introducing you guys to the DMC, the Data Management Center for JCPS, and how that's used for post-secondary readiness. So I'm going to answer 2 questions for you guys today. The first being, how do I access the DMC? And the second being, how do I use that data to create a plan for each individual student? So first things first, we'll talk about accessing the DMC. So I'm going to start a new tab here. I found the easiest way to find the DMC is to just Google JCPS space DMC. That populates some results. The first result is always the JCPS DMC. So just click on that, and that takes us to the DMC homepage. What we're going to be using today for these plans is the post-secondary readiness name and need tab. It's number 4 on the list on the right-hand side. So we'll click that, and that will open another screen. And this screen is a summary of all the high schools in the district. So in this screen, I can compare my data with other schools. I can see the numbers that are showing up for other schools. I can see my data. I'm going to scroll down to my data. I'm Pleasure Ridge Park High School. I'm showing that I will have 341 seniors. And right now, before the school year starts, 30.8% of those seniors are transition ready. So Kim has talked about what it means to be transition ready. I will go through with this data shortly and show you how to make some plans, some action plans for students to ensure that they get to that mark. So the next thing I'm going to do is I would typically click on my school name, but for privacy's sake, I have a window already open with some columns hidden so you can't see names or school identification numbers. I'll show you how to hide those numbers as well. But right now, I'm just going to click another tab. And if I were to click my school name, it would take me to this tab. Typically, the student's name, their last name, their first name, and their SSID would be present. I have those columns hidden for privacy reasons. So quick tour of this page. Now they are showing up as juniors right now. That will switch over to seniors when the school year starts. So right now there's 30.5% of my students are transition ready. So this dashboard here shows me the data that we're all interested in. So I have 341 seniors. 23 of those have met academic benchmarks, 58 of those have met career benchmarks, and 23 have met both. What this also shows me is that I have certain students, this QRNS, Quantitative Reasoning and Natural Sciences intervention, I have 11 students that are very close to meeting that math benchmark. I have 31 students who are very close to meeting that English benchmark. They've already met the other. So if they're close in math, they've already met English. So this is how you access the DMC. Google JCPS DMC, click on the first link, find your school, click on it, and this screen appears. So now the next question is, how do I use this data to make plans for every student, every senior on my roster? And this can be a difficult task, but the main thing is understanding the post-secondary readiness plan. That's the green sheet that Kim showed you in the video prior to this one. Knowing what it means to be post-secondary ready, and then using that data, using that information with this data to create a plan. So I've already got some plans created for my students, but I'm going to walk you through the first 3 or 4 here to show you what it will take to get them to be post-secondary ready at PRP school. So I'm going to skip over the students that are already ready. As you can see, there's a lot of information here. We'll start kind of walking across in this tour. We have, are they an ECE student? What is their race? What's the academy that they're in, the pathway that they're in? Are they an English language learner? We have all of their math scores here. Have they taken the Coyote? Most of our students have not. Most have taken the ACT, but with NTI, a lot of our students haven't taken the ACT yet. So I can see their scores listed individually. And what I can see is that there are some trends with these students. So I'm going to keep giving you the tour, then we'll work on these individual plans. But the next thing that we have academic readiness to the left. Then we jump into career readiness. What I'm seeing here are they enrolled in any dual credit in the CTE world? What is their pathway? Are they a concentrator? Meaning, do they have 2 credits on their transcript? And are they eligible for the EOP, the end of program assessment? The next column is, have they taken an EOP and passed it? Have they taken an industry certification and passed it? High demand industry certifications. If an industry certification is deemed high demand, that industry certification counts as 1.25 points in the transition readiness formula. So there are some bonus points available if you're using high demand certs. The next columns are kind of jump back into the academic. I've never really seen anything in those columns, so I don't use those columns very much. The next columns that I will use are the post-secondary status, post-secondary readiness, and the post-secondary plan. So this is kind of where we get our individual plans for each student. So if they are both college and career ready, both CCR, then I know that student's good to go, that they've met the benchmarks to be college and career ready, and they are going to graduate with those credentials. If it says need career, the default, if they're not college, if they're not academic, if they're not career, if they're not both, the default is need career. So this column is automatically populated with need career. So you can see as I scroll down, there are some other things in there. If they've passed, let's see this student, for example, this student has met benchmark in math. They need their English benchmark. So need only CAHSS means that they need their English. So what I'm going to make sure of is that that student is on a track to either take the Coyote, to retake the ACT, or they're going to be enrolled in dual credit to make sure that they meet those benchmarks. That's for academic readiness. For career readiness, I see that they're in allied health. They're a concentrator, so therefore I'm going to make sure that they take the allied healthcare core NOCTI, and I can get this student to be college and career ready very quickly. So this is the DMC. There are different things we can do. As I said, I made some columns visible and I took some columns out. I took out last name, first name, and SSID. The way to do that is click column visibility, and you just click the column that you want to appear or disappear. If it's blue, it's going to show up on my screen. If it's white, it's going to be taken away. I can also add filters. So if I want to see how many students have met benchmarks to be career ready, I can add a filter to post-secondary status. My condition is equals, and then my value will be career ready. So that's going to pull all my students that are career ready. Then I can sort and filter. If I want to export this data, I can click Excel and it'll export to Excel. And I can add as many filters as I need to. I'm just doing this one as an example. So I'm going to remove these filters. At this point, I just want to show you guys what all the functionality is on these on this DMC. So the next thing I can do is I can search for things. Typically, I would search for a student's last name, but because I have those things hidden, I'm not going to search for those now. So I will search for marketing. So anything that says marketing is now going to appear. Typically, I would use that search box for searching a student's last name. And that would show me that student's individual record, and then I could create the plan from there. So that is the search tool. We can sort by class. As you see, I've got juniors because this will be the class of 2022. And then I can do cohort year. So I could just select 2022. I'm not going to change anything because I don't want those names to appear. And then I can export into a PDF. I can also click Excel over here and export into a CSV file. So if I have any questions about any of where the data comes from, what does this word mean, I can click Data Dictionary. Most of the questions would be answered in that data dictionary. There are some things that we're just kind of expected to know, but you can click that. I'm not going to click that for time's sake today, also so that doesn't reset my page and show you guys the names of students as we move forward. So this is the DMC. So I've showed you how to access. I've given you a quick tour. The next thing I'm going to do is show you plans for students. So how do we create plans for students? The one thing I want to make sure to talk about is that these are plans and they have to be carried out. So we're allowed to select one plan for each student. So when I click on this little drop-down menu over here, I can see the different plans that are available for these students. What I would do is, depending on what data shows, I would select for this student, I'll select preparing for the EOP. They're a concentrator in their marketing pathway. So I know that I want them to be preparing for the EOP. So let's walk through this first student. I see that their ACT scores are low. I see that they've not had any dual credit. I do see that they're in marketing and they're a concentrator, and they have not met career readiness benchmarks. So they need career. That's why I would select preparing for EOP. What I would also do is have a conversation with this student and make sure that these ACT scores, that they tried their hardest, and offer any assistance I could to get them to be academic ready as well. So can we take the ACT again? Can we take Coyote again? Or can we take Coyote for the first time and ensure these students become post-secondary ready? The next student has not taken the ACT at all. They are also a marketing student, and they are also a concentrator. So I'm going to have them preparing for the EOP assessment. As you can see, the next student is preparing for Coyote, and they only need their math score. So they have met the English benchmark. They've met the reading benchmark, I'm sorry. So they have a 22 in reading, and they have a 13 in math. We're going to focus on Coyote because that math score is low. If that student wishes to take the ACT again, we'll absolutely push that student to take the ACT again. But the Coyote would be a good starting point to get that student across the line, so that they can graduate college or academic ready. This student is also a concentrator in marketing. So I know that I am going to also have this student take the end of program assessment. Hopefully this student would graduate college and career ready. So there's multiple plans for each student. There's multiple things that you can do for each student. We can only select one plan. So what is the plan of attack that we want to take first? What is the quickest path to get that student across the line so that they can see the success of passing an industry cert, passing a test, and they can see that box change for themselves. Then we can move on to whatever it is next. So if it's the best way to go is college, depending on what the student wants. He's close to meeting benchmarks. We can select Coyote or ACT. If they are wanting to pursue that career readiness indicator, we would absolutely select preparing for EOP. So we got a lot of marketing here because I searched marketing. So I'm going to take that filter off, and now we can see everybody. So my first student on this screen is good to go. They've met college and career benchmarks. And if we skip down 3 students down here, we see that this student is academic ready. I also see that this student's in architectural design, and they're a concentrator. So I can push this student to become college and career ready by taking the industry certification for architectural design. And I absolutely want to do that. And I want them to, the goal would be for every student to be college and career ready. As long as we get one, that's great, but I want my students to have both. So graphic design, let's look at this second student down here. So this student is in graphic design. They're an English language learner. Their ACT score is pretty low, but they've got 2 credits on their transcript in graphic design. So the first thing that I'm going to do for this student is ensure that they are in a graphic design class. So they need to be in the class that is going to be offered the EOP, but they can also take the industry certification for this class. Now, the reason that I have preparing for EOP instead of industry certification is in this graphic design pathway at PRP, we have an 85% pass rate on the EOP. So we're going to make sure that we're preparing the student for the EOP. I could put, if I wanted to change that, I could absolutely prepare that student for an industry certification, and that would be good for that student. Either way, the student's walking away with a credential that they've earned that shows that they have the skills necessary to pursue entry-level work in graphic design. So the next student, we'll start from the beginning, also has very low ACT scores. They're in the Business and Communications Academy. They're in the marketing pathway. As we see, very low ACT scores. They are a concentrator, and they have not passed any certifications. So we're going to prepare for the end of program assessment in that pathway as well. Now, each pathway has different options. Right now at PRP High School, the marketing pathway, the EOP, is the only option. So students, as they enter this pathway now, sophomores coming in will have the option for dual credit. We also will be pursuing some industry certifications for that pathway, but we've not done that yet. So we want to prepare this student for the end of program assessment. That is their quickest path to post-secondary readiness. So let's move down to the next student. We see they're in the Manufacturing, Engineering, and Design Academy, Architectural Technology pathway. They have done well on the Math ACT. They've taken some dual credit. They've got some dual credit here. They are good to go. So they, based on that post-secondary readiness model that Kim showed you guys, they have met benchmarks on both sides of this black line. They've passed the ACT, they've got dual credit, and they also have dual credit here. So they have met benchmarks and they are good to go. What I do see is that this student is in architectural design. They're a concentrator. I want to make sure that that student's also offered the industry certification so that they can move into that career with that certification. So as we see, I'm just going to scroll down. I think we've done enough of how we do the planning. And I think it's important for us to note that these are plans. I said that at the beginning. Now it's time to execute these plans. So if we're preparing for an industry certification, what are the standards necessary to pass that industry certification? How are we putting those skills in front of our students? So we need to be very intentional in how we do that. If they're preparing for an end of program assessment, we want students to understand what that end of program assessment is from their sophomore year on here at PRP. So we're preparing, we're talking about, we're doing warm-ups, we're doing exit slips, we're doing everything we can to prepare students for the EOP. We're putting that EOP name in front of them as much as we can so that they understand this is our goal, this is what we're working on. If students are trying to retake the ACT, we want to offer coaching, we want to offer assistance, we want to offer one-on-one instruction with your math teacher if you're struggling in math. We want to be able to help you in any way that we can. So these plans are there. I can then export these plans and then I can hand them to the people that are going to help with those plans. So as I use this tool, so we've used the data to make the plan. Now we use the tool to execute. So how do I take this tool? How do I take these plans and execute for students? I need to know who is going to help with each plan. That's number one. So if I'm preparing for an industry certification, who are the key players in that? The teacher, absolutely. The academy counselor, the academy principal, the core teachers around that CTE teacher. They all need to know that these students are preparing for industry certifications. They need to know that these students are preparing for an EOP. They need to know that these students are preparing for Coyote. The more people that understand this, the more people that know these things, the more support students will receive in pursuit of those industry certs, EOPs, whatever it is. So the key here is, yes, this data is great. Data is awesome, but there is still work to be done. Just because we have a plan written down does not mean we're finished. This is the starting point. My hope is to have all these plans done by the beginning of the school year so that day one, we can hit the road sprinting. We have our key players identified. We know each plan, who the key players are, and how I can get them this information. So the goal is 100% transition ready. We can get there. We can do that. All of our students are capable. All of our students are willing. And we've done a lot of hard work to make sure these students are where they want to be, that they're interested in the pathway that they're in. This DMC is an excellent tool to help us get these plans together. Now it's time to execute. So if you ever have any questions, my name is Joshua Lightle, joshua.lightle@jefferson.kyschools.us. I'm always willing to help. I'm a fan of data. I'm a fan of plans. I'm a fan of implementing plans. So whatever I can do to help, please reach out. And I want to thank you for hearing me. Y'all have a good day.